It's kind of a joke within myself, and my girlfriend also gives me a lot of shit about it, about the fact that I'm an alcoholic, so I figured that it would only be fitting to give the pros and cons of such a habit. So the first pro that I can think of is that you forget about everything that may be important to your life. And now this is just as much of a con as a pro, but I'm going to explain the pro first. So when you're under the influence of alcohol, you simply do not care. Most of us feel inclined to carry on with some preconceived notion of how things should be in society, how we should act, how we ought to be. But in reality, that is a complete illusion. It's a complete societal construct. And so alcohol lets you forget about these sort of behaviors that you've learned to perform to please others, to be a quote-unquote model citizen. Alright, one of the beautiful things about alcohol is that you care less when you're under the influence, right? I've been to a couple of parties in my lifetime, and a few of them in particular have been at this house located next to a train track. And at these parties, once in a great while, if things were just right, a train would ring its bell and it would pass by. And when this happened, all of us, everybody at the party, would get out of our spot. We would hear the train from the house, and we would go outside and we would look at the train as it passed by, and we would, because we were all drunk, we would have the courage to walk up to the train as it was moving, as it could easily, split us in half on the train tracks. We would touch it and we would just admire it super close up. A super dangerous activity, but we did not care about the consequences. And that is the main factor I want to drive home. Alcohol gets you to forget about everything. You simply do not care. Now, equally as bad is the con to that, which is alcohol becomes a substitution for your real problems, right? Because deep down, I don't want to be drunk. I want to be in tune with life. I want to be in tune with myself and what I want. And there are all these external factors and internal mental blockages which prevent that from happening. And it is very sad that I have to resort to alcohol as an escape from that realization that I cannot attain that. And this is the universal constant. Alright, I know that I have the ability to just stop the bottle and work on the goals that I am passionate about and work on the things that I want to do. But it's just fucking hard, man. And sometimes I simply just don't care enough to actually go through with it. Sometimes I'm just like, you only live once, we're gonna go crazy. And so that's kind of the mindset I take. Another pro of alcohol is that you're more self-aware and you can open up easier about your issues. Personally, one of my biggest problems is having an issue with opening up about my deep problems and having an issue talking about my feelings and how I have perceived the past handful of years of my life. And to this day, I still don't even understand such a question, and it kind of sucks, but I kind of forced myself into it. I kind of deserve the outcome. Not to belittle myself, but the point is it's really hard to kind of get down there into the depths of my soul and sort of pick apart the things, the aspects of my life in which have affected me to this day and which have held this sort of trauma response, I suppose I'll put it like that. And so a great thing about alcohol is that you can sort of more easily pick apart that sort of mentality, and you can sort of realize, hey, this is why I am unable to move on. This is what is holding me back. And it may be alcohol itself. But I would argue that alcoholism is a result of another behavior or another aspect of one's life in which they haven't gotten over quite yet. Nobody is born mean. Nobody is born an alcoholic, a drunkard. It's something deeper. They're numbing it. Alcohol numbs you. Definitely a con about alcohol is the hangover. Now, I've been through plenty of these in my lifetime. So many. And every single day it fucking sucks. I've had to go to work before, an 8-hour shift on like 6 hours of sleep. I've had to drive to work still like completely blitzed out of my mind, hungover. And I've done it before, and it is horrible. It is not even like worth it. But it was such a good time the previous night, and I simply did not care because, again, I was drunk under the influence, that in my mind it was worth it. And that day passed, and those hours passed by like I knew they would, and everything worked itself out. But in that moment, it was miserable to suffer through a shift at work, being completely hungover, not even able to control your situation. Like, all I really could do was drink water and pray. But maybe we can go back to the cons of alcohol and say that I understood these consequences in my conscious mind, but the alcohol, the moment, the feeling of community that I was having, the feeling of being able to socialize properly without my own insecurities getting in the way was more important than the consequences of being hungover at work. So we could perhaps tie that in there. All right, another pro. Alcohol is cheap, fairly cheap. You can definitely find good deals, good sales at your local store, at your local wine shop, your brewery. I don't have too much to add there. A con of alcohol is that a lot of my ambitions and dreams come alive when I'm under the influence of alcohol. And I say that this is a con because if I truly cared about something, if I truly cared about learning a hobby or building a skill, I would do it sober. But the fact that when I'm drunk I have so much more motivation to work on these kind of things really shows that there's an issue with how I perceive my own wants or needs. There's some sort of mental barrier blocking me that seems that I can only bypass through alcohol, and it's not a healthy habit to build at all. There's a lot of things I wish I was good at, but I simply do not put in the time and I do not care about learning them. But when I'm drunk, I kind of get these ideas in my head that I really should aspire to be something. And I suppose that's another kind of alcohol too. Like when I'm drunk, man, I just double down on the fact that I really don't have much hope for the future. I mean, I don't know what's going to happen ultimately. I feel like it's in my best interest to carry on with a sense of hope. But dude, the future looks so scary, especially when we take into account our economy and our current place in the world. It's just rough, man. And it's scary. But there's nothing I can do except accept my fate as I am, believe wholeheartedly that I am perfect here and now as I am, and that everything's going to work itself out, and then continue forward. Because there is simply no other option, and I'm okay with that. For now, I suppose. That's another pro of alcohol I'll add. I get more optimistic, maybe. Depends. Because another con, you could say, is that I get a lot more pessimistic, and it really depends on the drunk and who I'm with and what I've been doing the hours before. I have a problem, man. I don't know when to stop. But I hope you learned something from this very vulnerable talk. Alright, I recommend don't do what I do. Stay away from nicotine, alcohol, drugs, weed, etc. You're an intelligent individual, and I trust your judgment. So until then, I'll see you next time. Please take care.